everyone. In today's video, I'm going to show you how I created this cute little Christmas ornament painting with watercolors. And make sure you watch until the end of the video because I will be announcing the giveaway in today's video, so make sure you stay tuned for that. So first you're seeing here, I'm just mixing up the colors that I want to use for the background, and I want to mix up enough colors so that I don't have to worry about going back in and mixing up more paint before the background starts drying. And I am using my Winsor and Newton professional watercolors here. And the colors that I'm thinking to use for the background here is like a warm yellow, a warm red, and a nice sap green color. So you see me mixing those up here, and then I'm going to go ahead with that sap green and start getting that into the background. And I want to get a lot of this up in the top because I want this to seem like there's a tree back there and some tree branches coming down, and perhaps maybe we're looking at a tree and the yellow and the red could be lights in the background in a tree. So that's what I'm doing first, and then I'm going to go in with the yellow and the red. Then you'll start seeing me take a little bit darker version of that sap green, so I mix in a little bit of hooker's green with it and a touch of red if I need to deepen it just a little bit more. And I'm starting to create these lines in the painting, so the background's still nice and wet. So when I take my brush with this darker color through, that color is going to bleed out just a little bit, and it's going to create these faint tree branch like textures in the background. Then once I've done that, I'll go ahead and mix up some darker green paint, and I go with another layer on top. And as I'm doing these, I try to make sure the branches with each layer are going in different directions. So it really looks like once the painting's done and you're looking at it, you're getting a depth of the tree and dimension so that some of these branches are going in all different directions. Once I'm done that, I go ahead and dry the painting completely. Now, one tip I do have for you when drying your paper, if you dry it and you notice that it's still buckled or it hasn't dried completely flat, that just means that it's not completely dry. So if you go ahead and touch your paper and it still feels slightly cool to touch, it is not dry. So keep drying it until it dries flat. And even if you just use tape to tape your paper down, it will dry completely flat. Once my paper's completely dry, you'll notice that I actually go back in with another layer of water. And this is because I want to create another layer of little soft branches in the background. But I'm not using as much water this time, and I'm being very careful when I take my brush over the paper because I don't want to disturb the layer below. So if I've taken my time to dry it really nicely, then I'm not too worried about the paint moving underneath. But if you have paint that is not as permanent, then it might lift. So just be very gentle when you wipe it with water again. And again, I'm just creating some of those soft branch textures here. Then I go ahead and dry it again, and what I'm doing now is I'm actually taking my circle stencil and I'm creating a little bit of bokeh look in the background. And I've got this all in real time on my Patreon, and I explain exactly what I'm doing as I'm doing it. This was a live stream for my Patreons only. I will leave the link down in the description below if you guys want to check that out. But I explain what I'm doing, why I'm doing. You guys get the line art and the reference photo. And this was a really fun painting to do, and I really like how it came out. Now, for creating the bokeh texture in the background, I am using a stencil brush for this, so it's just a little bit harder bristle brush than your normal watercolor brushes. And I find it just lifts the paint a little bit easier, but you do want to be careful with a brush like this that you're not pushing too hard or scrubbing too much because it will rip the paper if you rub it too much. So I just use it very, very gently, and I want to use it as dry as possible as well because some of that water will leak underneath of the stencil, and so that could create, you know, some other problems if you want like a perfect circle texture. And then I also show you guys how I use that same brush to get rid of any of the color that has leaked onto our little ornament there. Now I'm going in and remixing a really, really dark green. So what I use here is a little bit of sap green, a little bit of sepia, and some Winsor red just to deepen it down a little bit. I really like to add reds into my greens because it makes them a little more earthy like and a little more realistic green. And I'm just creating these wispy little textures coming off of this branch. So I use the sepia to go down the middle and create that like wooden branch part. And then I'm just creating these little wispy textures coming off to look like the little twigs on the branch. or pine needles. I guess they're pine needles. But that's what I'm doing there, and I'm just going in a couple of layers, and as I go on top, I make the paint a little bit darker each time, and I try to space them out too, so I'm not just covering the whole thing from the first layer. Now we're going to go in and work on the bulb, and I'm creating a really nice bright red Christmassy color. And then I want to use that color, and I throw in a little bit of indigo to deepen it a little bit. Now I don't want to use too much indigo because if you mix a blue color with a red color, it will go purple. But I want a little bit of that purpley color, and then I'll take a little bit of neutral tint as well just to deepen that color a little bit. And I find if I use other colors to deepen colors, I get a much more realistic look, as you can see here with the shadowing in the bulb. I feel like it just looks like it belongs a little bit better than if I would have gone right in with neutral tint or black. And then I take my other brush. So for this painting, I've been using the silver black velvet brushes, but I'm using my Princeton Neptune round brush here, and I'll use that just to lift some paint off to create that shining highlight area on the bulb here. And then I'll just go around and fix up the edges now that I've got most of the paint down onto the paper. And then I go ahead and give that a good dry as well. Now I'm taking my Winsor and Newton inks here, and I have a gold and a silver version of them, and these are just gorgeous inks, and I really love the gold with the red. So I'm using the gold ink here to do the topper for the bulb. And then I go ahead and take my pencil, and I'm drawing in these little snowflake areas on top of our ornament because I thought it would be fun to use the silver and do the snowflakes with that. And then I just grab a separate piece of paper and show you guys how I'm doing it, because you want to make sure that you're curving your snowflake with the way the bulb goes. So just keep that in mind. You don't want to just do a flat line for the snowflake, so you want to make sure you're curving everything, and it depends which way it's going to curve on which side of the bulb. And then I just take that silver Winsor and Newton ink here, and these inks are just gorgeous, but you do want to make sure you give them a good shake up before you start using them. So I'll shake them up for at least 20 seconds or so. And then I try using like a longer brush. So I like to use a liner brush most of the time. And that way I can make sure I just dip the tip of the brush into the ink and it doesn't get up into the ferrule of the brush, because I don't know if that ink would get in and ruin the bristles of the brush over time. So I just make sure that I use it right on the tip. Then I give that a good dry. And now we're going to go in and do like a little ribbon. So we're going to tie the bulb onto the ribbon, and I show you guys on Patreon how I do that in real time. And then we just draw the little ribbon on, and that's it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and like I said, if you want to see the real full-time version, I will have the link down in the description to my Patreon. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, I will see you in the next one. Bye! So congratulations, Christina. You are the winner of my giveaway. So I will have my email linked down in the description below. So go ahead and give me an email and let me know if you want pack 1 or pack 2 from the giveaway. And I will try to get that out to you as soon as possible. So again, congratulations, Christina. I'm so happy you won.